we'll get into it.
Okay.
I'm going to start off with just a very broad question.
All right.
Mainly, with so many products out there, what makes yours unique?
Oh, a lot of things. So just sort of a few brief facts about the distillery. We've really built it from scratch, so not just the styles we make, but the equipment we use and everything.
You've handmade your...
Right, we've hand-hammered our own stills, welded copper, and all of that. And so, mostly, to be honest, we did that because we were broke. But the nice result of that is we got custom equipment that's really set up for our environment, for what I'm trying to make. And that kind of leads into the second part, which is, we're trying to take the tradition, which I'm a very big fan of, traditional bourbons, traditional scotches, and so forth, and do something new. So, for instance, our corn whiskeys, bourbon's made mostly from corn, but corn isn't the primary flavor that you get there. That's just the style. So we're trying to do corn whiskeys that are really about the flavor of the corn. So that's how I started why I started looking for blue corn. Or actually I started looking for really flavorful corn, which turned out to be blue corn. Roasted it, made it even more flavorful. So that's just one example of we're trying to innovate in style. Our single malt is traditional in lots of ways, but at the same time, we have a lot more wood in there. So it's something that a lot of bourbon drinkers are going to enjoy, as well as traditional malt drinkers. So this sort of thing. Rumble's a totally unique thing. Figs, honey, and sugar fermented together. That's just its own drink. Brimstone, obviously smoking whiskey as opposed to smoking grain and smoking with wood smoke. So we're really trying to create a unique set of Texas styles of whiskey.
Are you from Texas? Is that...
I'm not originally from Texas. I'm originally from Virginia, but I moved there about 12 years ago, and it just seemed natural when I started the distillery. I'm a big fan of kind of local sense of place. I don't know if terroir is maybe a little too grandiose, but the general concept is there in terms of making something that makes sense in its place.
Great.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our guys downstairs is wondering what makes your cast strength of the Rumble different compared to
so I won't say the obvious thing, which is that it's cast strength. No, I mean, Rumble, the best and worst thing about Rumble is that we make so little of it. And that's a good thing in this case because Rumble we make the least of all of our spirits. And the cask reserve is sort of the most reserve. I mean, as opposed to being the top 15% of cask, it's like the top 3%. And so since we release so few bottles, most things we might be releasing every other month. I'm doing blends and releasing. Rumble Cask Reserve, you're talking about every other year. And so it gives me an opportunity to pick the most interesting casks and meld them together and put them in a European oak barrel, let them rest a while in some, ex-bourbon barrels, and then fill them into a used wine barrel and, just really shape each blend over months and years. So it's quite different if you've had both of them in terms of style. And I think the honey perfume notes come out a lot more in the Rumble Cask Reserve, and there's a definite Armagnac quality that you don't fully get. That's one, if you don't add water at some point while you're drinking it, you're missing out. It's a crime, and you should have your Rumble Cask Reserve taken away. But you really need to try diluted down to like 42% because there's a lot of apples and pears and all the things you traditionally see in Armagnac that you don't get at bottle proof, but I want that to bloom in your glass. So anyway, it's one you can play with a lot. Yeah.
Can you just quickly talk about the process of building your still?
Sure.
Yeah.
So what aspect of it exactly?
Pretty, I don't know. What makes it different from, why did you choose to build it yourself?
Well, again, to be perfectly honest, the main reason is that I couldn't afford to have somebody else build it for me. I did also want a traditional pot still, so a lot of what many craft distillers use are sort of combination pot column stills. And the idea is to make a still that is good for multiple different spirits, since you may not know how you want to make your whiskey, or you may want to do a vodka and a whiskey and so forth. But I had a very, very specific concept of what I wanted our spirits to be like. Even though we do different things, if you taste through our line, there is a house flavor that has to do with how I distill, my philosophy of how I ferment and everything else. So by doing it yourself that way and doing it in the building in which it was installed, I mean, everything is as custom as it can get. You know, so the line arm, which is the pipe that carries the vapor up to the condensers, normally that would be, 4 degrees up, 4 degrees down, be 4 feet long. Ours is like 20 degrees.
And what is that?
And it creates a lot of reflux when I want it to. So the simplest way to break that down is to say I can make a really rich spirit during certain parts of the distillation, but I can get really good separation during other parts. And the end result of that is I get something off the still that's really full and rich and also clean. It's fairly easy to do one or the other, but you got to use some tricks to get both.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is it still recording? Okay. Yeah, I think we kind of covered everything.
That was easy.
Yeah. Is there anything else
Did
you
I pass?
Totally. With flying colors.
Good. Good. I can stay.
Is there any last thing you want to say about your product? Your passion for.
Yeah, I mean, no, we're trying to be one of a number of people that are really innovating in craft, and some people just want to recreate something that's been done, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there is a certain spirit in the craft movement, craft spirits. You saw this in craft beer. Of yes, taking that tradition, not forgetting the tradition, but adding something genuinely new. And when it's well done, because it's a little dangerous to play outside of the line, it's exciting, and to be able to taste flavors that weren't there 10 years ago.
It is.
So that's I guess one of the sort of zeitgeist concepts floating around. That's a big thing for us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
Enjoy the event. Yeah.